So I wanted to preview the Oregon-Washington game. Man, this is gonna be a really good game. And this is a matchup. I think this is a matchup where it's not just. I think when you think Oregon, Washington, seventh ranked team, 8th ranked team, I think in years past you think, oh, this is going to be, whoever wins this is going to win the Pac-12, and then that's just end of story. What's cool about this matchup is we're talking about a game where the winner of this game, could seriously continue to propel their momentum towards getting in the college football playoff. So I'm excited for this one, and these are two teams. You think of Oregon, and you always, if you're older, like if you're in your 20s or later, you remember the Chip Kelly era at Oregon. You think of high flying, fast speed offense. This 2023 version of Oregon under Dan Lanning has a little bit of that, but it also has, hey, we want to play strong physical football, running the ball. We want to win the line of scrimmage. We don't just want to beat you by putting up more points than you. We want to beat you up physically, and we want to have the edge on both sides of the line of scrimmage. So that's what I like about Oregon team. But don't get it twisted. Washington has a little bit of that too. Washington, if you look at last year too, this year as well, their offensive line play has been exceptional. Look at Michael Penix has played high-level football even going back to 2020 at Indiana. But, Washington has been so successful because they have been so strong on the offensive line. So this game has the makings to be a really good game, close in the fourth quarter. Maybe the team that has the ball last wins this game. So I'm super pumped, super excited for Oregon and Washington, a battle of two top 10 teams. This is going to be a super, super fun matchup. Yeah, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, the quarterback matchup might be two guys that we might be talking about as top 5 picks in this next upcoming draft. So yeah, this one is going to be fun. And when's the last time we've had a real marquee matchup in the Pac-12 where there is legit not only Pac-12 implications, Pac-12 championship implications, but national title and college football playoff title or college football playoff implications? Pac-12 team. When is the last time a Pac-12 team has made the play? Was Washington 2016? Was that the last time a Pac-12 team has made the playoff? It has been a few years. So Washington, Oregon. I think what's interesting about Washington and Oregon. So USC was my pick to win the Pac-12, but initially it was Washington. What's interesting about this game is what's interesting about these two teams, though, these were two teams where, there's always a team every year that, in the back of my mind, I think they're going to be a national title potential team that could, one loss, run the table, get, to me, I'm trying to think of the last time we've had a team like, or a good example would be in recent years. I guess maybe, what was it? 20, I guess, not as much. I guess I would say maybe Georgia a little bit in 2021. But the example, 2013 Florida State to me was that team. But for me, Washington and Oregon were both those teams. I'd say especially Washington was that team where I'd be like, wasn't really ready to put my fist down and pick them to win, to go to the playoff. But I was like, there was part of me that was like, if Washington starts off this season in a win Saturday, if Washington start off next season like 7-6-0, 7-0, 8-0, would I and people are and getting buzz about being a play, not just a conference title contender, but a playoff contender? Would I be surprised? No. So I think Washington is that team where they are a win here is really going to get the buzz, and you're really going to get the talk that, this Washington team not only can win the Pac-12, but can also be a team that gets in the playoff and is going to be a really tough, not just a tough out, but a team that, check all the boxes where they might be able to win not only a game in the playoff, but win a national championship. If you look at that showing, Washington, the way they beat Michigan State, that was when you look at teams that have won the national championship, they really have had. They have an early, obviously they have a long way to go. They first have to win the conference title well, you could argue they don't, but most likely have to win the conference title to be in the discussion of a national title, but a title contender. But what's interesting about Washington is what'll be interesting with Washington is I lost my train of thought, but I guess the point with Washington is they are, they check all the boxes to win a national title, and I guess a lot of now I remember what I was going to say. So a team like Washington, if they win big against, like if they beat Oregon handily, I think then you're like, that really is going to put people all on board of the Washington train. I think a lot of teams that have won a national title start out with, back to what I was saying, the way they beat Michigan State, that is kind of like that was just a complete outclassing. And you look at national champions, they've had a lot of times they will have many games where, at least one game where they just completely outclass a respected Power 5 opponent. So that's the thing. I think, which you look at Georgia, Georgia the last 2 years, there's been games, SEC teams, they've just completely outclassed. Washington completely outclassed Michigan State. Alabama, the years they've won it, outclassed some opponents. So Washington has really had that game where they have really put their fist down and made a statement to people that they are a strong, very well-rounded football team. And you look at Washington. Braylon Trice is probably the most underrated. Well, maybe not underrated is the best word, but he's not getting enough hype relative to how dominant he's been last year, and then is continuing that trend this year. So you got an edge rusher that's very good, could be a top 10 pick. You got a quarterback that could be a top 5 pick, maybe a top 3 pick. You got a first round receiver potentially. You got multiple talented receivers. You got a defense that's playing good football, a good young coach who has his team on the right track. So Washington, everything is there for them to be a really strong team, not only this year but down the road. And if they get in the playoff this year, maybe this is a team where we could be talking about year in and year out could be not just a conference title contender but a playoff title contender. Obviously, a lot can happen between now, though. We are still early. It's still early in the season. But Washington has their chance to really make a statement tomorrow. Or Saturday, excuse me. So then we'll talk about the flip side with Oregon. So Oregon, Bo Nix. Bo Nix is my second favorite quarterback for the 2024 draft. I really love Bo Nix's game. I think he's an outstanding talent. I think he's a super good quarterback. But yeah, Dan Lanning just seems like a coach who, he talks about good is the enemy of great. I think he really has visions on turning Oregon into a powerhouse nationally. So the way in Oregon just seems like they've a program that just seems to naturally have playmakers on offense, even in whether it's whether it was Mark Helfrich taking over for Chip Kelly, Mario Cristobal. It seems like they've been able to still establish. They've gotten some luck, getting good coaches. Dan Lanning, a really good coach. Mario Cristobal was a really good coach. He was a little bit of a question mark, just a guy that was not really a proven track record of success, but that worked out. Helfrich didn't work out, but there was flashes for about a year or two. The offense remained playing at a high level. So Oregon, no matter how down things had become, they found a way to recruit fairly well, especially under Dan Lanning, and they found a way to keep playmakers on the football team. But yeah, I think Dan Lanning, I think he is a really nice fit for the job. I think him and Kalen DeVore, why this matchup's going to be so great is these are two guys that, you feel like this is only, I guess what I'm trying to say is this might only be a preview of how great a success they could have at these programs. These guys are really kind of the next guys up to potentially become some of the next elite coaches. With Saban getting older, Kirby Smart still, fairly young, but not not a super young guy. Urban Meyer has been out of college football for 5 years, and then Mac Brown, an older coach. You feel like you look at who are the top guys, top young guys that are ready to break through to that elite level. Dan Lanning, Kalen DeBoer. So yeah, this I could talk about this matchup even longer, but I'll just leave it at this one's going to be fun, and this one is going to say a lot about these two teams. And the loser of this game, let's say hypothetically, because Washington and Oregon, they're both in the North, I believe. They couldn't meet in the conference title. So I'd say, could we have two Pac-12 teams if Washington wins this game and goes undefeated somehow, or has one loss, do they get in? But if Oregon just has this one loss, is that the case for two Pac-12 teams? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Brant Parcell Show. Stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.